we'll get started. Okay, Diane, we're going to record this for everybody. Hopefully they will start to file in. If not, they can watch it. There's an Ignite class going on and a bunch of other stuff too. So hopefully everyone will watch this at their leisure. But I wanted to just take a quick minute to thank you for being here today and for spending a little bit of time with us. My goal for today is, first of all, I'd like to kind of introduce you to the group, those that are here and those that will check this out a little bit later. I'd like for them to hear a little bit about your background, whatever you're comfortable sharing, your life before real estate, kind of your story, if you will. From I think I made an educated guess earlier today, and you can verify this for me. I said, I don't think that she's ever made a cold call. Is that true?
You know, probably not. I think I did in bold.
Okay.
When I had a call expired and FISBOs, and then I think the next day I hid in my car.
Yeah, I was just about to say, did you do what I did, which was like walk outside and sit in the car and not do it?
Oh, you don't cold call either?
I mean, I started to maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, but at the very beginning, no, I didn't have any interest in that at all.
Oh, okay, thank you. I knew we had I thought you were going to try to make a guess at my age, and you better go on the young side.
No, what, like 37?
No, I work referrals.
Yes. So I'd love for you to share that story of kind of, I mean, it's easy to say you work referrals, 15 years into the business.
Yeah, how did I get there?
But how did you get there, right?
Yeah.
And I'd also like to, open the floor up to those that are spending time with us today, just to learn a little bit more about, strategy, tips, recommendations, that kind of stuff. I'd like for this to be pretty interactive. I'll probably ask you a couple random questions as well. And so I'll start. I'll make a very short introduction for you. Diane and I have known each other for probably 10 years or so.
Yeah. I think so.
You've been at the office longer than I have, and I always you kind of reminded me about how I was at the beginning, right? I didn't see a whole lot. I saw you when you were picking up a check, dropping off a check, and I wasn't in the office that much either. I was picking up checks, dropping off checks, coming in to teach a class, and that was that. We actually got to know each other a little bit better about 7 or 8 years ago when I first started feeling the pinch for like needing help. And interestingly enough, you volunteered to help me with a number of transactions, and I appreciate that. Not that you were like some starving new agent, but we just got along and it worked out nicely. And be forever grateful for that. And then now we serve on the ALC together. And so I'd like for you to share kind of what your experience on the ALC is, and what your role is. And without further ado, I'm going to pass over the mic to you, Diane.
Well, first of all of you made 2 great decisions. One is joining Keller Williams. I've been here for 15 years. You get called by other agencies and brokerage, and occasionally you talk to a couple, but nobody beats this place in terms of, they can talk to you about commissions and such, but just the overall support. It's funny, when I started in 2005, and at that time the assistant team leader said she had come over from Coldwell Banker a few years ago, and she was shocked because if she was working on a listing presentation, if somebody was working on a presentation and another agent would walk by, they would literally cover their screen. She says, I walk into Keller Williams, everybody's helpful and supportive. So I don't think you can beat the culture. The other thing is you made a great decision coaching with Bill. Bill's a first class and knows what he's doing. So anyways, 2 great decisions. So I started in 2005 in real estate. My background is packaged goods marketing. I'm from California. I went to UCLA undergrad and for grad school, and I worked at marketing. My first job was at General Foods in New York. I worked on stovetop stuffing and moved up, changed companies and such, and ended up managing ice cream novelty products for doing the marketing for Nestle. And then I was head of marketing for Dole vegetables, and had a lot to do with introducing pre-cut salad mixes to the market when in the early 90s, when a couple of you were probably just crawling. Everything was head lettuce, and we worked and rolled out these products. Basically,
I didn't know that about you. That's so cool.
Yeah, I used to be, they would call me the salad lady. It was a lovely name. But yeah, so it was pretty exciting, but we had just started a family. My husband was traveling, I was traveling. I was not having it all, if any of you have been through it, you know, in terms of feeling I wasn't giving my child enough, not giving work enough. So I ended up deciding to consult, and I consulted for years. Did some consulting for P&G and some other companies, and just basically developed and implemented marketing plans. And in 2005, things with marketing were evolving a lot to e-commerce. Little did I know real estate would totally turn to e-commerce, but it wasn't my bailiwick. And I thought it's time for me to do something else. And real estate seemed to make a perfect sense, because I see it that it's marketed. I've always marketed products. So be it stuffing mix, be it ice cream, be it worked in optical for a while, be it contact lenses and glasses, or be it a salad mix. A home is a product, a very expensive product, but it is a product. So I saw that I'm marketing a home, and that would be a nice skill set. What I learned, though, is you also have to market yourself, which is another piece of it.
I was just about to ask you the kind of what is the product? Is it the actual house, or is it you?
It's both. It's both. And I'm a big believer, and a lot of people will disagree, because I work so much on referral base. My approach is I do a fabulous job in getting their house sold for the most money, the least amount of time, the least hassle possible. And that will lead to my further business, and typically does. I'm kind of jumping around a little, but a marketing piece I always do. Every time I do a just listed card, I get a short 1 or 2 line testimonial. I try to get on Google if they'll do it. Some of my clients, you know, aren't that savvy, but 1 or 2 lines, and I put that in my just sold card as a quote.
Love that.
So, and it, instead of just saying just sold, you know, and I've gotten that some, again, for marketing. I'm big about consumer research, and I've never done formal research in real estate, but I get clients saying to me, I get so tired of those cards saying I sold it in 3 days. Well, maybe they undersold it. So I like putting I don't put the price or the days. Occasionally I'll put a record price if that's the case, but I usually put a quote. You know, Diane was a fabulous realtor. She went above and beyond. I remember a quote saying she even went over and watered my grass. I had another quote, we've had 9 realtors, she's been the best. So I like to use my testimonials a lot.
That's a great idea, I like that.
Yeah, so anyhow, so in 2005, joined Keller Williams. I was Rookie of the Year. I was very disciplined. I would, you know, if you have to decide if you're comfortable making 3 hours of calls every morning or not. I was not, but I in produce, we had eat 5 a day. So I told myself I have to make 5 calls a day or I can't leave my house. So that for me was manageable. Certainly didn't take the 3-hour morning, but again, you have to do what you're comfortable with. So I did 5 a day. Did great. I had just started thinking about maybe taking an assistant, maybe starting to build a team, and not to go too much on personal, but hit over the head with a 2x4. My husband was diagnosed and died of pancreatic cancer and had a 15-year-old. So I was focused on her. And so that coincided in 2008 with the market taking a correction. And I kind of I pulled back for about 3 years. I did people approached me. I had another small business I was working on, but I didn't have the fire in the belly that I felt at that time to generate business. I still did a good job, but that, to your question, Bill, I could only market the house, and I didn't feel the fire in the belly to market myself at that point. But when the market came back around 2012, 2013, I jumped in again and kind of redefined. I decided I just want to keep it myself. I didn't want to build a team. If any of you have been through life-changing situations, you kind of step back. And I decided I've managed people before. I'm real happy just doing my own thing. I use Robin T. I love them. That is how I get my assistant. She handles so much of my paperwork and with command. So anyway, so how even back on 2005 when I started, basically everybody I knew and people I didn't know, I went through my neighborhood directory. I went through my daughter's lacrosse teams. I worked in a charity group, and I had consulted on site for 2 years at a company out in Lawrenceville and targeted them. So I targeted pretty much everyone I knew. My first 3 deals were in Lawrenceville from this old company I worked with. Actually, my first deal was, I'm all excited, and I went to Lawrenceville and I researched it because I didn't know Lawrenceville for houses, and all prepared and have all these houses, and I get kind of an older gentleman and his wife, and we look at 6 houses, and I'm all gung-ho, let's have lunch. No, 1, 2, and 3, here's our choices. Said, okay, all cash, okay. So I'm like, this is so easy. Why didn't I do this ages ago? Well, that probably was one of the easiest deals and not to be repeated that I had. So,
that's the easiest deal you've ever had.
Just about, yeah, just about. So anyhow.
Certainly wasn't the one we worked on together.
No, oh gosh, no. In fact, I used an under appraising example in an appraisal training. Anyhow, but that's kind of what I did. I sent an introductory card. I'm now doing real estate. I, honestly don't remember, but I probably said something about my marketing background. I thought that made sense. And then I did actually, as you said, I don't cold call. I probably did more than my 5 a day at that point. I'm sure I started calling. But I had people I knew that trusted me. I had been PTA president. I had been involved in our neighborhood. So people saw me in other elements and I think trusted me. So, I got kind of lucky too. I mean, I got a couple big deals my first year just from my neighborhood. Right. And it sort of took off from there. A few things I've done, I did, quarterly I did monthly mailer newsletters. This again, 2005 wasn't as internet driven as it is now. I did a monthly mailer newsletter. I did something that's a neat thing to do. I don't know if you guys have talked about pop buys. Yep. But have you talked pop buys?
We've been using the word surprise and delight. So.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
So.
I gave 1 year Thanksgiving. I went by and gave out turkey basters. 1 year at what's it called? The leprechaun holiday. I'm drawing a blank in March. St. Patrick's Day, I gave lottery tickets. Those are just a couple of things that come to mind. So, it's great to do those. And I didn't always, I sort of would knock on the door and hope they weren't there. So that's not necessarily good. You probably want to see them, but even if you don't see them, it's great just to leave it.
Well, I tell you, that's at least you committed to doing it, spent the time and committed to the time to build it, got in the car, drove there.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
You there was probably a million different times that you told yourself, keep going, keep going.
Yeah, so, exactly.
Right.
You are correct. I also did open houses. Again, with COVID, maybe they're not as popular, but I picked up a couple clients from open houses. So I would say that's sort of in a nutshell how I launched things.
And so what is like what's a typical year for you? Give us an idea of what how many units are you selling? What is the income? Like, how do you keep it to where you want it to be?
Yeah, the past few years, I do about 20 to 22 units a year. I'm fortunate, I have a fairly high average. My old neighborhood and a couple of other neighborhoods are it can be in the, on average in the sevens. But I've really lately, I moved to this townhome neighborhood in downtown Alpharetta where they range from 4 to 6. And I have a couple of realtors that hate me in here because I honestly, I took it over. So,
yeah.
And I just started doing, so it's one neighborhood. So let's talk about farming. One neighborhood in here. And you have to decide if you want to farm your own neighborhood or not. I know some people don't feel comfortable. I just felt I wasn't impressed with the two realtors that were doing a lot and felt we were undervalued. And so I started doing mailers. I can't remember if I did some telephone calls, but I did do mailers, and I got the first person in, and that's when I started with doing the quotes, the testimonials.
Right.
And I joined our social committee. I do book club because I love book club. I've been on the budget committee of the HOA. So, I got myself out there and started getting more and more people. And at the risk of sounding immodest, I mean, I've had a couple people say, "Oh my gosh, I've heard such wonderful things about you." I just got a call, and I've even gotten calls of people telling me, "Hey, I heard, this is terrible, but I heard so-and-so is ill, so you should be aware that they could sell their house." So I have people actually reaching out to me to tell me to keep an eye on things.
Well, the interesting thing is, like, I've mentioned this a lot. No one gets anything, right? When you earn listings,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
You earned those relationships, and
Yeah.
and by the way, you earn the continuation of those relationships.
Yeah.
Right. And I personally was not a huge fan of marketing in my neighborhood because I was working from home a lot, and I didn't have a garage, and I didn't want people to. I mean, this is limiting beliefs, but I didn't want people to think I sat around all day.
Oh, interesting.
Right. So, and I spent a lot of time with my kids and my wife, and I didn't work on Saturdays, and I didn't want to do a lot of work on Sundays, and I just didn't want people to think that I wasn't really busting it for them.
Interesting.
So I courted people outside of my immediate neighborhood. So I've been in that zone of that 20, 25 units a year. Like, how do you keep it that way? Like,
so here's, let me back up a little too about your comment. The one weird thing about working in the neighborhood, I mean, I'm out there taking a walk with a baseball cap on and, looking pretty lousy. And so it is a little awkward. I'll be called and then I dress nice. And I've had people say, "You didn't have to dress nice. I don't recognize you." So there is a little bit, you do feel like you have to be a little careful. You just have to be comfortable with that. Now in the day of COVID, where we all, excuse my language, look like crap most of the time, probably can get away with it more.
Right.
So back to the 2025 too, it's been the past few years. My GCI is usually around 200. And I'll be honest, I am not a crazy workaholic realtor. I don't want to say I work part-time, because to me, part-time means you're not focused. Mentally, I work full-time. Mentally, I lose sleep. Mentally, things are on my mind.
Oh, I love what you're saying. I love what you're saying. Like, so mentally you're full-time, meaning like you treat it like a business, you study the market like it's a business, you're learning based, right? You know how to talk to people, you're developing those skills all the time, yet you choose to engage physically, not like 60 hours a week or something.
Right. I mean, I'm a big bike rider. My significant other has a lake house, so I like to kayak, paddleboard. And people will make comments like, "Well, don't you hate real estate because you have to work weekends?" I said, "I work, sure. Sometimes I work weekends, but guess what? I get my hair cut on a Wednesday afternoon. I'll ride my bike on a Thursday morning." So what has always been key to me is having, it's not part-time hours, it's flexible hours. But it's very, again, because of this life change I went through where, you know, sort of say what's important. You know, I just decided it's about family and friends and traveling. I love to travel and doing things that feed my soul. And, but again, you know, May was I was crazy in May. I had 5 closings. And I look back, my daughter was supposed to get married June 6th, and we had to postpone it till next year, obviously, but it made me think I better get coverage next year, because if she got married, I would have been crazy. So I believe you can be highly successful. Could I make more money? Could I do more deals? Absolutely. But I'm very happy where I am.
Got it. I think that's awesome. So how many times have you been on the ALC? I'm trying.
You know what? I started in 2006, and then when my husband got diagnosed, I dropped off. So just once.
So this is because
I came on for you, and I've stayed for you and Aubrey. Nope, just once. I always kind of resisted it.
I know. I am proud of you. I've heard a couple bold things in your language so far today. I'm very proud.
Oh, no.
I didn't think that you had been on the ALC that many times.
No. Somebody had told me, and this was in a prior regime, that you give a lot and you get nothing. And so I kind of was a little concerned. And you guys, I mean, Bill and Aubrey literally just want to pour into you, and now Robin, and I'm loving it. And it's given me, the reason I did it, for being in the business for 15 years, I did it to give me a little bit of a spark back.
Yeah. And the truth, I was in many of those ALCs that you were describing, and we're incredibly purposeful about that.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Just making sure that there is that we're surprising and delighting the members of the ALC, right? And we're pouring into their businesses, because we don't want somebody to go on the ALC and then their business declines.
Yeah.
We want them to go on the ALC and then show the world that you can be in leadership and still have a thriving, growing business.
And the hours have been very manageable. I've never felt like, and I look forward to the meetings, and I look forward to teaching some classes. So it's never, you know, now I purposely didn't, I'm on the productivity, thank you, but I like doing, it's helping with the training and scheduling the classes. Where I purposely, I'm very big into charity work and philanthropy. I didn't do the social and cultural, although I would have liked the cultural. To be very straightforward, I have my own group of friends, and I didn't want to do social. But so certain things, you know, that probably would have maybe taken more time with the fall festival. Right. Somebody had raised their hand. Was that you, Heather?
Yeah, it was me. I had a quick question when you were talking about farming your own neighborhood.
Yeah.
If you did advertisements, like paper advertisements, did you specifically state that you live in the neighborhood, or did you just talk about that with
I put in, I do a great mailer, and this is another suggestion too that I've done with farming. Anybody can do the standard print off the MLS newsletter that all these services offer. I do my own update. It's Academy Park update. And I take time and I put a headline and I put bullet points. And I put one year, 2018 was a record year, and then I list what sold, average sales price, Then I actually list the actual sales. And again, I could print that out, but it looks much more custom, that I actually do my own. It's just an easy Word document, or maybe I do it out of Publisher, I think. And thank you, I need to do one. I've been thinking about it. And I put a little blurb in that says, I'm not just a realtor, I'm your neighbor. So I like to promote it. And I say what this means. This means that nobody wants to get prices up like I do.
Exactly.
And I'm around the corner, so I'm able to support and help you. And that, I mean, to be able, if somebody's already moved out, and to be able to go over there and put their trash out if you need to. So I'm very service oriented, and I'm very blunt with people. I tell them when I make my listing presentation, I tell them I'm like the magician who tells secrets. And I said, you might have a realtor that comes in and says they have 45 different things they do to list your house. And I said, and one of them's putting out the lockbox. I don't count that. So I have a very simple 5-point plan I present to them based on marketing. So, and I find, I'm sure I've turned some people off, but most people who know me know I have a very dry sense of humor. I share that. So to your question though, I put in there why I think it's a help to have a neighborhood realtor. And I've had a couple people that say, I won't use a neighborhood realtor, I won't use a friend. Okay. You know,
And there's just so many people that say, I will only use a friend or only use a neighborhood.
Exactly.
Right. So you just got to do what you feel most comfortable with. And like you said, some people are going to love you, and some people, it may not be a match, and that's okay.
You know what? And Bill, that is a great point. You don't win everything. And it took me a while, you know, we're in sales and you have to have a thick skin. And it took me a while to get over if I lost a listing, you know, beating myself up. And now it's like, okay, well, I think it's their loss, but.
Exactly.
And as you get more established too, there was a house, I went and met with this woman, and I knew, I'm going to use this term, Bill, it's a Yiddish term. I knew she was Meshuggah.
Okay, yeah, I know Meshuggah.
I knew she was a little crazy. I knew she'd be very difficult. I knew the house was an issue. And I didn't say, I won't take your listing. I just never followed up. And she's listed with someone else and it's sitting on the market. So.
Yeah, not every person that presents themselves as an opportunity is in fact an opportunity.
Right.
Right.
And then you get other people. I had a woman call from my old neighborhood, and we have a lot of realtors in that neighborhood and a couple that work it constantly. And she called and she said, yeah, I want to use you. I remember you were PTA president. This was 10 years ago. And you seemed so level-headed. I thought she must be a good realtor. And that was like out of the blue. So, you know, I'm a little bit, I'm a big believer of what goes around comes around, and, you know, you do a good job and you treat people right. And yes, you have to hustle to get your business going, but eventually those things will.
Say that one more time.
You what?
You have
treat
to
people
hustle
right?
to get your business going?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You have to hustle to get your business going. I'm much more laid back now. I was very intense when I started. And I'm telling you about the 5 a day, but I actually, thinking back on it, I made a lot more calls than those.
Right.
Oh, the other thing, have you talked about writing personal notes?
A little bit, we've sprinkled it, but go ahead and tell us your experience with that.
I think it's, you know, I was 29, I trained as much as I could. We could write thank you notes. So I've got my own, you know, Diane Borchers stationery, and I have awful handwriting. But I think after you have them, okay, the woman who called me, for example, and said, hey, somebody's sick, they could be selling. And I just dropped her just a quick personal note. It took me 5 minutes to write. Thank you so much for having this faith in me, to think about me and tell me when you hear of something. Stay healthy, Diane.
Love that.
I think that it just shows a little effort. Again, Heather, if you're thinking about your own neighborhood, we just had a woman, anytime somebody leaves our board, I write them a note. Thank you so much for your service to our HOA board. I know it's a thankless job. I greatly appreciate it. Because whoever gets thank yous in those jobs.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah, so head of the landscaping committee, I wrote a note. So again, I'm not doing in other neighborhoods, but I think the thank you cards, or the cards are, I don't even think, you know, I used to put in a little Starbucks or something, or Chick-fil-A. I don't even think that's needed.
I agree with you. I don't know that is needed.
Yeah.
I just put in a chat box. I've bought cards from a website called Note Card Cafe for years. They're
Oh,
nice,
okay.
like kind of hard stock, nice and colorful.
Yeah.
They've got a bunch of them that are kind of real estate themed, like
Oh,
doorknobs,
great.
that kind, front doors and that kind of thing. And they've also got like ones that are specific to, happy birthday or thank you or welcome home and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So check out that site.
Yeah.
You can get like, I think 72 of them for like $17, something like
Oh
that.
my God, it's called Card Cafe?
Note Card Cafe.
Note Card Cafe. Oh, definitely. That's great. I'm just going to write that. See,
So-
I mean, Bill just illustrated, we're all always learning.
There you go. So what's next? What's next for you, Diane? When are you gonna ride? When are you gonna ride off into the sunset?
Well, it's funny. My goal is to retire in 3 years at 65, so you can back into the number.
Okay.
And but I think real estate's hard to let go of because if somebody calls you. So will I totally retire? I don't know.
We got a room full of people that will happily pay a referral fee.
And Aubrey had actually told me to read a book called
The Golden Handoff.
Golden Handoff.
Yeah. I was about to ask you about that.
And yes, I mean, by the way, in terms of Bill talking about, I don't like to cold call. If any of you are interested in somehow partnering where you would like my experience, but you're willing to hustle and make some calls, and me potentially handing some stuff off, I'm very open to. I would love a whippersnapper who's maybe doesn't
Liz
feel as
Kennedy.
comfortable. Hello,
Liz Kennedy.
All right,
Liz Kennedy. I'm gonna handwrite you a note today.
You don't have to.
I will be in contact with you.
Shoot me an email or text, and let's socially distance meet. I am very open to meeting. We go out to dinner. I'm cautious, but
Absolutely.
I'm not in a hobbit hole.
Okay, I'm contacting you. Thank you.
Look, there's opportunity everywhere.
This is great. This is a great group.
Yeah, the Golden Handoff is this book that talks about like there's basically like almost like an incubation period where you're introducing your database to the future leaders of your organization, right? And little by little, you withdraw yourself from the day-to-day activities.
Yeah,
and you're essentially still creating I mean, it's essentially a team. It's a profit center that you reward those that are doing all the work or most of the work, certainly handsomely, but that you are able to receive a revenue or a portion of profit because you were the one that built it, right?
And have you guys talked about drunk monkeys?
Not with that. Why don't you tell us about what a drunk monkey is?
Well, my understanding.
Now they've eliminated drunk and monkey from the bold language.
Okay, I'm sorry.
They call I'm
very politically incorrect.
Limiting mindset.
A limiting mindset.
Yes.
A limiting mindset. Okay. We all have hangups. I don't care. I remember my mother-in-law. She lived in the Borchers, a retirement community, and she's in her 80s and made a comment about that she's not part of the in clique. And I'm like, you're in your 80s, you're still worried about the popular girls. So, the point is we all bring baggage. We all have our hangups. I was raised in my my dad was a doctor. Everything was very academic. I was raised that sales was sort of below all of us. So my limiting belief has always been, it is hard to sell myself. I know I'm good. I'm good at a presentation. I'm good in a listing presentation, but back to the calling and the cold calling. So if one of you, Liz or Heather, if you like the calling and you don't mind it, but you don't have the names to call, maybe we'll partner. And you can say, I just started working with Diane Borchers and wanted to connect and yada, yada, yada. So anyways, that is my limiting belief. That has honestly held me back because I don't do that, but I'm happy. So, right. And I make good money and have a good, well-rounded lifestyle.
I love that. I love that. And you're a perfect example of, you can have a great business and you can spend time each day doing the things that are meaningful to you. And you can make plenty of money and you can make plenty of impact. What kind of questions do you guys have for Diane?
Yes.
She's an open book.
Yeah, you can tell, a little too open, but yeah.
That's okay. That's okay.
Tell me, what discourages you guys? What is challenging? You know, what makes it difficult for you?
So I'm walking, that's why I was with my little girl, but that's why I was on. You didn't see me before, but the most challenging thing to me, I think what resonated what you said is you just don't like making phone calls,
Yeah.
especially cold calls. I'll call my sphere all day, but I really
Okay, well, good. That's better than I
hate the
am.
idea. Yeah, but I hate making cold calls, and I know Bill's gonna hate to hear that, but you know, that's the biggest challenge to me is I can do everything else. I just do not like doing that.
But I am so impressed that you will call your sphere, because even with me calling my sphere, there are people I had to get over that, again, I'm, you know, selling myself to these people I see all the time.
Right,
you know,
right.
I never wanted to be the person where, oh my God, there's the realtor, let's hide.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
And because we all know the people, you know, they're accosting. Somebody wants to just go to the pool party and they're accosting them. So if you seem like you have a good style, if you're open to calling your sphere, that is wonderful. I mean, in some ways, I think cold calling can actually be easier, because what the heck, you'll never see the person again.
That's true. I just,
So,
I've gone to just saying, hey, I just want to be your real estate source, your forever
Right.
realtor, and not asking for anything. And I think that works a little bit better for me. But yeah, the phone calling thing just, ugh.
Well,
And the other thing with your sphere, if somebody says to me, hey, Diane, do you know a good painter? I immediately get back to
Right.
them.
You're right.
Because you want to be that source.
Yep. I've done that a few times so far.
Yeah. Yeah.
what I've said to people here is, you know, somebody asked me a couple weeks ago, you know, do I have to cold call? I said, you don't have to do anything.
Do anything. Yeah.
No,
Right?
I know. Bill.
But here's the deal. If you have a goal to sell a certain number of homes or make a certain amount of money,
Yeah.
and you're not there, or you don't, the path is fuzzy, right? Or you don't have enough people in your database to support that goal, you got to grow your database. There's no
Yes.
other way around it, right?
Yep.
So do you have to make calls? No. Do you have to call strangers? No. You don't even have to make any money if you don't want to. It's all up to you, right? So if you don't have a sphere of influence that's large enough to support your dreams, then let me help you build it.
Absolutely. And
I never said you were wrong, Bill. I just.
And I think, you know, I know Bill's talked to you about this. It's not, I mean, the calling can be, I think there's sort of you can have your sphere and then you can have your cold call, and there's probably sort of a middle ground. So are there people that, you know, are on your child's softball team, you know, so that you're not necessarily a sphere, you kind of know them. So, you know, are there people through PTA? I mean, you know, if you have the directory of the school, those kind of things.
That's right. That's right. And the cool part about it is everybody needs a real estate agent.
Yeah.
Right. You got to live somewhere, right? You're either going to own it, we can help you. You're either going to rent it, we can help you. You're going to rent it out, we can help you. You're going to invest in it,
Yeah.
we can help you. You need it painted, we can help you. I mean, like literally,
Yeah,
we have sources to help every single person.
that's true.
Right. And if we're the ones that earn the business, right,
Yeah.
and continue to earn the relationships, then they'll keep coming back.
Yeah, I just had my fourth deal with someone, and I mean, he called me out, and he's one of my favorite clients. You know, you have people that you see their name, and it's like, oh, and this guy brings a smile to my face. And he said, hey, you said when we're ready to buy a lake house, give you a call. Great.
Yeah.
But that doesn't come year one.
Hey, Lorelei's got a nice lake house listing. It's like 1.2. Have you seen that place?
Yeah, I wasn't at that budget, unfortunately. But we looked one half a day, and they put an offer in.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have those, you have Bill and I have both had people where we have showed lots of houses too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
and again, you know, what is your positioning? I mean, my tagline is your real estate agent makes a difference. And that's because there are so many realtors out there. You know, I take it head on. I say to them, I know you know a million realtors. They may or may not, but a lot of people do. You know, everybody and their brother seems to, especially when the market's good. And I said, but I focus on you, the client. I focus on selling your house. I am not focused on my next deal. We talked about marketing yourself versus market the house. Personally, and again, I will use this to my advantage. I said, I don't like realtors, and don't get me wrong, there are realtors that make 10 times more money than I do that have their faces on their sign. They're brilliant marketers. They're ones in our office. I look up to them. But for me, one of the things I say is I don't put my face on my sign because I'm selling you and I'm selling your house and I'm not selling me. So what is your niche? You know, figure your niche out. My niche, I tell people, I say I try not to take on too many listings in the same neighborhood. I don't want them competing at the same time. Honestly, between you and me, I'll take 10 listings at the same time. I'm not going to have 10. So I've turned that into part of my shtick.
Right,
that I purposely limit so that I don't have listings competing with each other.
Right. I didn't tell you what the limit was. Could be 15. Right.
Well, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
And
you know, I have a closing today. Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
That kind of reminds me of, like, you know, let's say you're a solo agent and you want to say, like, now, you know, you could go and hire a team and you'll get shuffled from one person to the next person to the next person, and you never know who you're going to get on the phone. When you hire me, I know everything about everything with this file, right? Yep. And you're always going to be able to get me, right? Yes. Then when you're on a team, you say, you're not going to hire a solo agent and they're out fire, and they got a question about a listing and you can't get them because they're there or there or there. We got somebody we're paying to sit at this desk and deal with you.
Exactly. So it's how you you know, take, and again, I know I'm sure you ask Bill lots of questions, the newer agents, you know, for example, you know, how do I position myself because I'm new against a established agent? And that's where maybe you talk about your background. If you've done something related, I was able to talk about my marketing. But you also talk about that, you know, first of all, I know Bill's told you this, you know, you have the whole Keller Williams office, you've got him, you've got mentors, you've got a whole support system. But I'm going to be so excited and so enthusiastic and so focused on you, you're never going to get that service out of a more established agent.
Yeah. It's it's like, hey, I know this person might have sold 4 houses in the neighborhood, but I got nothing else to do. I'll be all over this file.
Yeah, you'll say, yeah.
Little different phraseology.
And again, if okay, so my neighborhood, I sell the most houses. I'm the neighborhood agent. You should use me. Another neighborhood. I know I'm not the neighborhood agent, but honestly, I think you're better off not using the quote unquote neighborhood agent, because I'm not selling 4 houses at the same time, so that if they don't like yours, I immediately run to one of my other listings. I'm focused on your house. So if they don't like yours, I say to them, well, what about if we took some trees down? What about if we tried this? As opposed to, oh, well, my other listing has a much bigger yard. So, you know, again, what Bill said, you're positioning to whatever the situation is.
Right. Well, you got it. And by the way, you can only do that if you've asked enough questions to see where their leanings might be. Like, do they have an unusual preference? Do they have something that's unusual that frustrates them, or they've had a poor experience in some way, right?
Yes. And the other big thing is, are we still doing disc profile, Phil?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it. We actually had a disc class scheduled for a week ago and are working on reschedule. But yeah, please talk about disc. Absolutely.
Because I want to make sure that's acceptable term. So, but, you know, given the kind of personality you're dealing with, so, you know, try to size up, especially when you have a couple. You know, you find out the guy or gal, the man or woman, is an accountant or an engineer. you're going to want to show your charts and graphs and focus on those.
Yeah.
If you can tell that the person is, maybe they're in sales, maybe they're artistic, they don't seem to be a numbers person, you're going to want to talk more sort of a little more, I guess, in general and touchy-feely, or get to the bottom line. I can tell, you can tell sometimes you're doing a listing presentation and they're glazing over, and then I skip several pages. So
right. Like, here, I'd like you to sit and listen to this 80-page presentation.
Yeah.
The person's like checking Facebook, and you're like, just kidding. If
yeah,
you
exactly.
wanna see
Or
the
I've had
slides,
people
they're over
say,
here.
I've had people spend, 10 minutes on a graph. Okay, well, I've got their personality. I had a boss when I first started in the corporate world. I remember he said to me, you need to learn to wear different hats for different people.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so you're dealing, and at that time I might be dealing with a production manager and from the plant, I wore one hat, and the ad agency creative off the wall person, I wore a different hat. So
Right.
you're not being
And
phony, you're being adaptable.
I really like the way you just said that. And also, like, oftentimes the spouses have different personality profiles.
Yes.
So you have to figure out, like, I hate to say it this way, but who's in charge, right?
Absolutely. I was going to say, figure out who the driver is.
Right. Who's the real decision maker? I can't even tell you how many times I've screwed this up, where I found myself, let's say, more connected with the wife.
Yeah.
And then they get divorced, and I never heard from the husband again. I couldn't get him.
Wow.
I didn't have a relationship with the husband, or vice versa. Right.
Yeah, or you call it wrong and you find out, gee, the wife loves his house, and all of a sudden the husband torpedoed it, or vice versa.
I had a funny story, Diane. I don't think I told you this. I had my townhome in Sandy Springs on the market last summer, and a couple came through. They seemed to like it. Their agent told me they liked it a lot, and then they disappeared. And it turns out they split. The husband came back, and he was the one that bought it.
Wow. See?
Yeah.
Guess what? Yeah. And I will tell you, it's kind of bizarre, not so much with selling houses, but when I'm working with buyers, you can tell a lot about a marriage. I mean, are they mutually respectful? Are they both listening to each other? I actually had a couple, they were engaged. I just did not like this guy, but I kept my mouth shut, and I was doing backflips when I found out she broke it off. So I lost the deal, but it was okay.
Right. Gosh, you just have to, I remember having a conversation with, I had a big house down in Druid Hills listed one time, and it was tenant occupied. And so I got the listing agreement signed and everything, and I had to contact the tenant. And the tenant said, look, I got a mistress. Okay, so I need to know when you're coming, because I don't want to get busted. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you're just seeing like sometimes the best and the worst in people,
And that puts you in an awkward position.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, gosh.
You hear it all.
Okay. And I guess my biggest advice, and again, just go the extra mile. It makes such, even little things I know when you're first starting, maybe money is tight, but you get your first listing, hire a photographer. Doesn't have to be the best. Hire a professional. Do not take pictures on your cell phone. Put descriptions under your pictures so you can show them. Say, hey, let me tell you, these are little things, but most agents, I will tell people, I say a lot of agents are lazy. I say there are a lot of good agents, but there are many lazy agents, and I write descriptions under each of my pictures. This is minor. Robin Lemon and I have talked about this. Put directions in listings. I can't tell how many agents use your GPS.
I know. Oh my gosh, it drives me insane.
Yeah, I am not a detailer. My late husband called me Miss 80%. He was an engineer, so it's good enough. It's good enough. But there's and that's why I use Robin T, because she'll detail on my contracts on the administration and the compliance. Mm-hmm. But boy, am I detailed when I want to make sure I'm putting my best foot forward in terms of a listing presentation, or in terms of you know, in terms of buyers. Buyers still need us, by the way. This business, if they can find everything on Zillow. Something else I do not just put them on Gateway and send them everything. I screen the listings, and I cannot tell you how many buyers say, God, we appreciate that. We worked with another agent. All we did was get masses of listings, even though we told her certain things didn't meet my criteria.
Mhm.
And then a buyer says, how about seeing XYZ Main Street? And I'll say, you know, I took a look at it. I'm more than happy to show you. But what I noticed was it has a drop-off backyard, and you say you want a level grassy yard. You know, you're showing your value.
That's right. And well, number one, you have to set those expectations up front, because if you don't do that, then they're like, oh, 123 Hill Street came on the market and Diane didn't even tell me about it. Right. Yeah. And you have to ask enough questions to know how to edit those houses out. And the whole reason why you're doing it is to save people time.
Exactly.
That's it, which is a code phrase for also saving you time.
Exactly. And especially during COVID, you know, you want to minimize how many houses you go through. You want to be smart about it.
Oh yeah.
I used to be, when I first started, what they call a pop-up agent. Somebody would call, can I see this house? Okay. Can I see that house? Okay. And I also found out my friends, gee, they love looking at houses.
Yeah.
Isn't it fun? I don't know if any of you have heard before people say, I like looking at houses. I think I might be a good realtor. And I say, oh, do you like climbing in attics at the inspection? How do you like negotiating? How do you like having to get in another realtor's face when they're being unreasonable? Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
I
I
don't
don't
like
like
filling
that.
out termination and release paperwork.
Yeah,
More work
exactly.
when you know you're not getting paid.
How do you like making a bed before a listing, when you saw they didn't make it? When you may not make your own bed. So anyways.
So like I said, we have a couple of additional agents have hopped on since we started at the beginning. The majority of the group in here is in either the launch or kind of relaunch phase of their organization. So outside of really hustling, what other advice do you have for the group?
In terms of getting business?
You could go in that direction, or just generalized ideas.
Honestly, I'm just a big believer you do what's right. I mean, sometimes, you know, I've had difficult sellers over the years, and, you know, they could get away with maybe hiding something. And I always say to them, how would you like it if the seller did that to you? Right. You know, that I think this is very hard to do. I think because you're good at your business, you will personalize as much as you cannot personalize. I just had a very, very difficult seller, and she's got a lot of personal problems, and I feel terrible. And I've been trying to be there for her, but I finally, because she kept calling after it closed, you know, this isn't working, that's not working, we'll call the home warranty company. She hated the inspector. I said, we'll call the inspector, you know. So if you can try to, I think if you look at people in the medical profession, they know how to remove themselves. I think sometimes you just have to be able to remove yourselves. And it's not always easy, because you're going to do a good job, and you're going to take stuff to heart. And the other thing, own up to your mistakes.
Ooh, I like that one.
If I make a mistake, I own up to it. There are times I have actually thrown in some money or offered to pay for something, because I felt I had something. It was a special stip about termites, and we had termite here, termite there, termite, and I missed the term terminate. Ooh. I missed that they could terminate very close to within 5 days of closing. And basically, because I missed that, we made the deal work. But I had to get in.
Termite system.
We had to do some extra termite work, and I ended up throwing it. And I offered. She did not ask. Yep. I said, I am paying for this extra termite inspection. and this extra termite work.
That's right.
Because
And,
and I had I had people tell me, don't beat yourself up. We all could have missed it. But, you know, I missed it. So own up. You don't have to, you know, it doesn't have to be a big mea culpa, but I think most people respect if you make a mistake, you own up to it.
yeah, I mean, you don't have to beat yourself up. That's not that's a different discussion. The question is if you were involved in a problem, I believe it's your responsibility to fix the problem.
Yeah. And the other thing, you know, I try to caveat as much as possible just because stuff can go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I try to let people know, hey, my read is, I think the buyer really wants the house. You know, I believe this will go through, but honestly, I just got to warn you, I've seen people at 11:59 terminate, you know, so you only can give your best advice. I had someone, we were negotiating a few $1,000s to give them on the inspection. And I said, my gut is we can negotiate. I said, I just need to warn you though, I have seen it happen because they paid full price. They get mad, we're trying to negotiate. Emotions come in the mix and they terminate.
Right.
I said, my gut is we can negotiate, but you have to assess if you take that risk. Because that way I want to cover myself. That if they terminate, well, Diane said they'd negotiate on it. So.
Yeah, it's setting expectations
Yeah.
or under promising and over delivering.
Yeah.
Like I was just always trying to have like, how can I make this experience fun? Right.
Yeah.
And so for me, like there was a number of times where like I'd build a relationship with somebody and I'd get some kind of tell or something, like I felt like I was figuring something out from the other agent, the way I was asking questions, they were responding, these kind of things. I said, what's your bottom line? I'm gonna play with them a little bit. Okay, you want to be at 450? Cool. Can I have some flexibility? And they're like, yeah. And then I go and have a little fun with it, and I'd end up bringing some more money to them. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I love that. Or I say, I don't tell them I'm going to do this, but I go tell the agent, they'll take the offer, but they don't want the home warranty. They don't think we need to pay for it. And then I go, but I didn't tell my seller. I didn't do that.
Right.
And I go back to my seller and said, hey, good news. I just negotiated the home warranty. I saved you $750.
Yep.
So yeah, I like that, Bill.
Yeah, that feels good.
It does. And trust me, you can't do it every time.
Right. So one last thing, or I've got one last question. One thing I've always liked about watching you from afar is you always appear to be just, you're coachable, you're learning based, and you know, you're always trying to learn something new and be adaptable. What is your take on, and I haven't prepped you for this question, so and I hope I get an answer that is acceptable for YouTube, but what's your take on all this new technology, and like, where do you think our business is going in the next couple of years? Or let me ask you a different way. How are you preparing for it?
Well, let me just take one piece of it. For example, like the iBuyer.
Yeah.
To me, there's two ways you can go. You can, or probably three ways. You can still do both of them, but you can train to do the Keller iBuyer, which is great. And then you can say, hey, I've got both programs. Again, I just say very bluntly, I say, oh, do you want an average of 18% less for your home? Because that's what you get. So I still think there is a clear role for real estate agents and what we do, but we might have to work harder to show it. For example, when I talked about buyers, you tell them, you know what? A lot of agents will just put you on this automatic system. I screen the listings so you don't waste your time. I reach out to other agents and ask them if they know of anything else coming up in the market. If you have a neighborhood you love, and I will mail a letter to everyone in that neighborhood saying, are you planning to sell? Can we get you before you go on the market? So to Bill's point, I think there's still clearly a role for agents, but we're really going to have to prove it ourselves. And, you know, if you look at the millennials, my daughter's a millennial, and she said, I got to tell you, Mom, people don't use agents. They just go to the houses themselves. Well, I have her on a little get yourself taken to a nice dinner program. And she's given me 2 of her friends, and they said, thank goodness for you, Diane, and you made my parents more comfortable that I'm working with someone of their age. It's okay. And they said, I thought this would be easy. I had no idea. So you don't know what you don't know. And that's the problem, is people that are doing it on their own, or people that use iBuyer, they don't know. So you just have to share the story and what you provide. So I do think there's definitely a future for all of us, but we're going to have to be smarter about it, and just keep and add that value on both ends of things.
Right. I mean, there was, let's say, 5 years ago, 4, 5, 6 years ago, you could basically you could be a lazy, unskilled agent and still make 6 figures.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, no, you're gonna have to focus every day on getting really good.
It's kind of 2-tiered. Why use an agent, then why use me? First you have to sort of sell the industry, and then you have to sell yourself. And unfortunately, with younger people, they like to do things themselves, is a lot of it, and they just don't necessarily see the need. And what I always forget is to explain. So many buyers don't understand that they don't have to pay anything.
Right.
I mean, that's basic. Now, some of them think, well, I'll be able to negotiate that away. And I explain to them how the listing contract reads, and no, they don't necessarily negotiate that away.
What Diane means by that is the listing contract says the seller will pay, let's say 6%. And if there is a cooperating broker, meaning a buyer's agent, then the listing agent will share the commission with that person. Meaning that if there's not, then the listing agent's still going to receive 6%, right? So there's generally no savings when a buyer is unrepresented. One thing that just crossed my mind was this, oftentimes somebody buying a home is one of the first adult things they do, right? Long before they have a will or a financial plan or life insurance or disability insurance or any of that kind of stuff, right? So they've never actually bought anything anywhere close to this price, right? And therefore they a lot of things were bought for them previously.
They might have inherited their parents' car. They may have never bought a car.
Exactly. So they don't actually understand the value of things a lot of times, particularly something that could cost $15,000, $20,000, $25,000.
And that's what I tell people too. I say, I heard this years ago that people will spend more time just finding a hairstylist from recommendations than they will a realtor. So I'll tell people too, I say, this is most likely your biggest asset. You owe it to yourself to have a realtor who's going to treat it like theirs. And I always tell people, I say, I'm cheaper with your money than I am my own. And I really am. I had a buyer that was a cash buyer. He didn't have to have an appraisal because the bank wasn't appraising it. And I told him, I said, I don't think you need it. And I explained to the reasons why. So, I took pride. I saved the guy $500. If I felt he needed it, I would have been all over it. So, treat their money like tell them you treat their money like it's your own. And speaking of money, none of us ever want to cut our commission. I think you just have to use your best judgment if throwing in a little money is going to help you get the listing. I'm not telling you to do it. You just have to read it and give all the scripts why you shouldn't. But to me, 2.5% is better than 0% if I have to do it. Or to keep a deal together, I called another agent one time. I said, I can't believe this could fall apart again over the home warranty. Will you split it with me? So just don't be penny wise, pound foolish. You want to make the maximum amount of money. But again, if you want the future referral, sometimes it helps that you threw a little bit in. They'll remember that. And
it's every single thing comes down to a discussion of time or money.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I can remember several times. I haven't negotiated commission away, but once or twice, and hundreds of transactions. However, I can distinctly remember, you know, like let's say a $500,000 seller working with a $500,000 buyer, and they spend 3 days fighting over a $125 electrician bill. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to pay this if you promise not to ever bring it up again. Are you in?
Yeah.
Are you in? Good.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I will write the check. I don't want to hear another word about it.
And do you know what I call that? I call it go away money.
Yes.
I
exactly.
go away. I just want to be done. I don't want to put this house up again. I don't want to take
putting you back in the car.
Exactly.
I
and
will
I will tell
the closing table.
And when I have a listing, I will tell the buyer's agent and it's falling apart, and I'll say, you know, I just have to put it back in FMLS. I said, you got to get those people back in your car. So
right. You know this place is going to sell.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's that's the biggest thing I've learned recently. It's okay to terminate. It's okay to walk away from a deal. I don't know, Bill, if you did this, I would just sweat every bullet. I would try so hard to keep a deal together. And sometimes it's not meant to be, and it's okay to terminate. And I just had to terminate with a buyer, and he actually told me, I'm still trying to find him something with this limited inventory, but he said, you know, I really appreciated how you looked out for me and you weren't pushing me to do this. So it also bought me goodwill.
Nobody wants to help a buyer buy a junker of a house.
No. And it was.
It's just as easy to help them find the one they want.
Exactly. So, do you have any other questions? Have I overwhelmed you or made you sweat or scared you?
Anybody? Well, thank you, Diane. This has been, I didn't know that that you were basically the brains behind the pre-made salad for the entire
let me tell you more. I'll tell you a little bit more about it. It started out, it was the grade outs from the fields. And so they took all the stuff they couldn't use and they chopped it up and they started selling it to the Taco Bells of the world. So the restaurants were using it. Well, then Costco comes around and they say, well, we want it. And they're selling chopped up salad in 3-pound bags, huge bags.
Mm-hmm.
And then the grocery stores are saying we want it. And this before I came into Dole, I was still working at Nestle. And they were putting 3-pound bag, that's a lot of lettuce, on their shelves and they're dying. So the head of Dole at the time realized that we needed a consumer brand, and he knew me and brought me in, and basically I didn't come up with the idea, but I came up with how to size it properly, how to do advertising for it, how to come out with extensions. So it's my prior life. But anyways, I mean this seriously. You are always welcome to email, call me. Something else I did in my early days, things are Zoom related. It depends how comfortable people are going out, but I asked top agents to meet me for coffee, and I could pick their brain. So you probably are learning who some of the top agents are. See if they would be welcome to, if not meeting you, socially distance, if they'd be welcome to a Zoom call, a phone call. But ask them what Bill has just been asking me.
There's a book that what you just said reminded me of it. I believe it's called A Rework. It's a book that talks about how like the after product, like for example, like in a lumber manufacturing company, right? They're really selling the lumber, right? But while cutting the lumber and doing all that, there's basically a waste product.
Yeah.
But the waste product is also valuable.
Yeah.
Right. So can you build a business out of that? Kind of reminds me of what you're just saying, like the lettuce clippings you sell to Taco Bell.
Yeah. And again, I can tell you too much about produce. Baby carrots, those were a grade out. So anyways, but please, all of you, feel free to contact me. I am always happy to help. Even if you have a contract question and you can't get a hold of anybody and it's like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Admittedly, I am not an expert on command. Do not call me for command. But I'm happy to help you with, anything else. Because I love working with people and helping them. So, and one last thing, I know Bill's told you this, Aubrey's told you this, do as much training as you can. All these Zoom calls, it's a plethora of information. So if you're have a couple of hours, it's like, I don't know anyone else I can call, see what training's out there. You will even if it's 90% of a waste, you'll always get something.
Yeah, thank you. This has been wonderful.
Thank you for inviting me. This was fun.
My pleasure. My pleasure. You're always welcome
Good
back.
luck, everybody.
Thank you, Diane.
You're learning from the best. I think the world of Mr. Linkwald. You're learning from the best.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll stop the